All right, guys, what do you say we hop right into it? I know we got a lot to discuss. I appreciate you for joining me. It is obviously September 11th, Thursday, September 11th, 2025, on the 24th anniversary of the attacks in New York City. Always trying to remember, never forgetting that moment in history. Obviously, a solemn few days it's going to be. I know a lot of people are still feeling a lot of emotions from what's taken place over the last couple of days. Before we get into all of that, more in the second half of the show, we'll be discussing any developments, any new news as it pertains to not only the Colorado shooting at the high school in Colorado, but also the Charlie Kirk shooting in Utah. So any new developments in that we'll be going over in the second half of the show. I'm very happy and pleased and honored to be joined in the first half by a very special guest, photojournalist based in Kyiv. Right now, not in Kyiv, though, I must say, Maddie Kelly. But before we bring her in, let me say hi to the chat. First off, thank you, mods. I know you guys have been doing and having a hell of a job the last couple days dealing with the chats that you're in. So thank you for making that chat and keeping it as safe a place as it can possibly be. Thank you so much to Machine. Come on, let's go. Give it up for Machine Tool 1 for not only the 50 gifted subs, but also the $100 contribution. I appreciate that. That goes along with Dame Dog, Steven, Deborah, Mountain Bike Fan, Alvin. Thank you, Tiff. Thank you, Alyosha. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Kevin. What's up, my man? All right, so let's not waste any more time. Let's bring in our special guest for the first hour. I really am, again, happy and pleased to be joined by Maddy. How are you, Maddy? Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. And you said you're in Utah right now, right? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, weirdly enough, I came down for Utah. Some of my other work is in Sierra Leone, so I came down to kind of get a little bit of prep when I had a break in family time. Right. And I got here, and Charlie Kirk was shot. So after this, I'm actually going back to the campus to do more photos and coverage of what's happening over at UVU and the active shooter still being out there.
Now, I before we move into, a lot that's going on as it pertains to Ukraine, especially with the recent Russian incursion of Polish airspace, the invocation of Article 4, obviously your experiences in and around Ukraine on the front lines with different units, different elements of the Ukrainian military, but obviously with your proximity to what happened, being a journalist, a photojournalist yourself, somebody that speaks about politics, covers these types of things. What was your reaction to the news? Again, not only of just the Charlie Kirk incident, but also at the same time we had that incident at the Colorado high school in which one student, I believe, took out another 2 or 3 in which they were critically injured. I believe the shooter in that has since passed away. But just your reaction to the news and the craziness.
It's getting pretty insane. My uncle actually went to Evergreen High School. And I know the campus. I think that it's just another indication that school shootings don't necessarily matter in American news coverage. I think that, over the years since Columbine on, it's gotten to the point where, unless there's a certain amount of people who are shot or like if it's especially egregious, people tend to move on very quickly. And I think it happened almost immediately. I believe the school shooting took place right before the Charlie Kirk shooting, and then immediately all news coverage, it was over. And I think it is indicative that the U.S. is becoming more violent and more politically violent. Especially the Charlie Kirk shooting is the high indication of that. I think that eventually we are going to be at a point where political violence has become the norm, if it is not already. And I think that goes, both ways. If anyone's on Twitter today, they're seeing this 2 sides of the coin, one where everyone is cheering on what happened to Charlie Kirk and the assassination. And then the other half is saying that they have to go to Utah and hunt down the shooter and start getting rid of the left vermin. I was at a vigil last night, I believe. And, that was the rhetoric that was in the crowd was we have to hunt down the subhuman left. We have to hunt down these people. And then it's the same thing. So I think, especially right now, we're at a point where politics is going to result in violence, whichever side of the political spectrum you're on. It's going to become increasingly violent.
Yeah, and we had a guest on last night, and we were talking and discussing, and it's like, if it's hard to imagine that if the Sandy Hook situation and the stories in herring moments to come out of that didn't force a change in this country and didn't enact some sort of civil unrest to demand change or better gun legislation, then it's hard to believe that that these incidents that we saw take place yesterday is going to spark that. And further to your point, it's very, very dangerous, the rhetoric that is being spread right now by the people on the right. It is without knowledge, without a suspect. I mean, I know they've released pictures of the suspect, they've kind of tracked him throughout the campus, but as to his motives, I know it's you've probably seen it been reported in the last hour or so that supposedly there has been some writings found on the casings when they found the gun in the woods, and apparently it was like supposedly some pro-trans or anti-fascist type of scribe. I don't know what that's all about yet. I don't think that's been really confirmed or denied as to what that's all about, or if that has anything to do really, or if that's just kind of been done to throw them off the trail. But it's dangerous the way the right's taking this and saying, hey, the left caused this. We got to get back at the left, actively calling for a civil war. Jesse Waters, multiple media figures calling for, an active war or saying the left is at war with us. And I don't think, that's going to do much to quell the tensions. I think that's obviously just going to help fuel and stoke flames.
I think they're right. I think this is a low simmering civil war. I have a dual master's degree in international war studies, and there's always this kind of, the big hot civil wars where two countries are entrenched, like not two countries, sorry, a country is trying to divide in two and they're fighting each other. And then there's these kind of political civil wars, which I think would be the most accurate way that we're in, very similar to the Syrian civil war. And I think that the US is, if not already, on a quick course to a civil war. I think that political violence is going to quickly turn into ideological violence, religious violence, racial violence. All of this it's already happening. It's already started. And I think that there is this sort of naivete amongst people thinking that it's not possible here, when it is. It's extremely possible. And I think that the right and the people on the left, anyone who's calling for a civil war, don't really understand what war means. And they especially don't understand what a civil war means. Civil wars are, I argued a lot that, the concept of total war, where everything, every part of a society, economic, cultural, every single part is based on that war. And that's civil wars are the closest that we will ever get to a total war. And I think that people don't realize what it means to be at war and what it means to be at war.
One thing to say it on Twitter, it's another thing to see it, out in the open, in public, with your friends and families being involved. I think a lot of people have found that comfort and safety behind the keyboard.
And it's always these people who are like, I'm going to survive the Civil War. I'm going to be, the next Navy SEAL in the Civil War. It's like, no, man, you're probably going to die immediately.
Right.
And you're not going to be the one who survives. Let's be honest here. I don't believe the keyboard warriors are going to be the ones who make it out alive that well.
Well, there's never been a conflict in human history that I can think of in which, a well-trained, a good soldier hasn't had his life or her life taken. In the conflict for whatever reason, an accident or, blue on blue shooting or whatever the hell it may be. You know what I mean? It just, you just don't know in war. You don't know what's around the next corner. You don't know what bullet has your name on it, what artillery has your name on it, what drone has your name on it, why it chooses you. I know that's a lot of the mental anguish that people go through in war, is like that, why did my buddies die and not me type of thing? Like what causes that? Why in this world is, who's pushing the buttons where it's like, okay, send the drone over there and not to my bunker or to my trench or anything like that. So, but it's really, you were speaking about your dual masters in international war studies, and I'm kind of curious if we could go back a little bit, and if you could just kind of tell me a little bit of how, like, where did like the military and your passion for this type of culture come in? Was it something fed to you by parents? Was it something that you kind of fell into yourself? Because it says here you were focused on, quote, military culture, training, and combat efficacy during the GWOT era at Potsdam University and University College Dublin. Obviously now based full-time in Kyiv, working as a photojournalist specializing in military coverage. So obviously you're still quite young. You've had a lot under your belt. Like I said, we were talking earlier, I don't know if I said this on air, but you were involved in, the 2019 situation in Hong Kong. You covered the 2020 George Floyd protest. You were involved at the 2021 January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Obviously the 2022 to 2024 in still ongoing war in Ukraine, the 2020 and 2024 elections in the U.S. So you've done and covered a lot, and I'm curious where the military aspect came into this. Do you come from a military family?
I don't really my grandfather served in Vietnam, but he never talked about it. He was one of those, I did what I had to do. That's it. It's over.
Right. Yeah.
But it's just always been something, me and my grandparents used to watch the History Channel a lot. And my initial plan for life was not to be a journalist. I was actually going to get a PhD in 20th century comparative genocide. So I was going to do mainly academic focus on genocide, very specifically in the modern era. And then
you'd be in demand no matter what path you chose. You would be in demand right now. I just want to point that out. Like, most people choose two things that are never in demand whatsoever, and they end up doing absolutely nothing that has to do with what they went to college with. You clearly made two great choices, or had two great choices, because right now, no matter which way you chose now, you'd be in demand, whether you're talking about what's going on in Ukraine or Gaza or anything, beyond that. So
yeah. I think we were joking earlier. I tend to sniff out to be in the right spot at the right time. So I think I ended up doing just that. And the PhD is maybe a back burner project, and then I ended up in Hong Kong in 2019. I fell in love with the chaos of the protests and, the fire, the Molotov cocktails. And it was, from there, it was just kind of an immediate, like, all right, this is what I'm going to do for now. I'll see if I can make it work. And then I ended up making it work. And then after January 6th, I actually got attacked at the U.S. Capitol. And I decided to take a break from journalism and start my master's degrees. And then it turns out that halfway through my first master's degree, the war in Ukraine started. So then I ended up going there. I was supposed to be in Ukraine for 3 weeks, I believe is what I told everyone. And then I ended up staying, and I haven't really ever left since.
No, I feel like that's a popular story with a lot of people that I've heard, especially, Americans or, foreign people based in Ukraine, where it was like, I was originally coming here for a day or two to do this or that. And it's 3 years later and I'm still here. I got a Ukrainian wife, where it's like, geez, things changed quickly. I was talking to, when we were on our humanitarian convoy, talking to the leader of that and about his experiences and how he kind of got to be, based in there. And his was a very similar, he was at, one of the airports that was recently closed down because of what we'll speak about, I'm sure, coming up. And, the Russian incursion into Polish airspace, the Rzeszów airport, the Warsaw airports that we were at. So it's like, there's a clear through line from a lot of these people where, like, they saw the plight of the people that they ran into there. They saw and heard their stories, and they felt so deeply and emotionally connected that it was like they couldn't bring themselves to leave, right? It was one of those things where it's like, I know I can help. I have an ability to help. So it would be wrong of me to leave here without doing everything I possibly can to help as many people as possible. So, it's one of those through lines.
And it's also, it's a little selfish. I think everyone is a little bit selfish with it. Part of the reason I stay is because Ukraine makes it so easy to work. It makes it easy to do the job that I love. And it made me love the job even more. And the people are kind and the people are nice. So they make it really easy to be selfish and stay. There's always the thing of, like, I'm doing a job that I love. I'm helping people. I'm documenting. Personally, I prefer soldiers. There's always this belief that soldiers can be equated down to numbers, and I like to not do that. All these people I could this is everyone in the background of that photo with the patch. The guy with the patch is alive, but he was grievously injured, and every one of the 3 men behind him have been killed. And then the BMP crew above that, they were all killed within a week of the photos being taken. And I think it's important to not just talk about the war, and, you know, people covering refugees. But I think that there is this gap in the life of soldiers that I like to fill. And I like to make sure all those guys in the flowers are dead. The other guy there was killed as well. So there's always kind of this, I like to
Now,
follow.
where were these pictures taken? Were these all taken in the same similar area, or are these all kind of different areas that you were at?
This one with the crew on top of the BMP, that was taken as Avdiivka was falling. So that was right outside of Avdiivka. It was part of, are we allowed to cuss on here?
Yeah, absolutely. Without
it was
a doubt.
A shit show. It was an absolute fuck show. It was one of the worst things that has happened. And I spent a lot of time in Bakhmut. I was in Bucha. Avdiivka was a fuck show. This is right outside Touretsk in an infantry position. Russians are like 100 or so meters away. And these are their firing positions. So that's Ninja. And then there's Koks. And the tall guy is Sustri. And then the bigger guy is Hamster. And they're all infantry. And they were all killed. All separate, unfortunately. But they, you know, and that flower one is also another infantry position. The one below that is also infantry. So I try and spend as much time as possible in infantry positions. I think that they're the ones who are suffering the most and understand the war the most. And I think that they give a good look into what this war is like. Because, you know, you'll see guys playing Candy Crush and then their buddies manning the machine gun next to them. And it's very funny to see. I think
this picture kind of says exactly that. You know, it's kind of crazy how you can, you know, in a trench, in a ditch made haphazardly as fast as possible in a war zone, can somehow capture the humanity of, you know, just the soldiers getting that simple relief of having, you know, a cat in there and something to, for a moment, you know, take your focus and attention away from, you know, the battle at hand in the shitstorm that you're now under. And it's amazing that, you know, people like you put themselves in harm's way when obviously they don't need to, in order to capture these moments and to bring the personal side of these soldiers to, you know, the broader audience, to the, you know, the broader world. Because, you know, like you said, we get a tendency to get wrapped up in just saying kind of Russia versus Ukraine and not individualizing the plight. And again, the people that I know when I was there, I met fucking Supreme Court judges, you know, people that work jobs that have absolutely no business fighting in a war, you know, manning anti-aircraft guns, you know, down the Dnipro to make sure that friggin' the drones, any drones that would have worked their way up there, their tasks were taking them out. So it's like every single one of these people has an individual story to tell. And, you know, it's people like you that give us these stories and give us the realistic, you know, the reality of what it's like being at the front. Is there a moment? I'm sure there's a ton of moments that stick out to you, but is there you know, a unit or a specific moment above the rest that kind of stands out to you, that, you know, kind of exemplifies or shows the humanity or lack thereov on the front lines, or something that you've seen, again, maybe even, you know, not so much on the front lines, but behind?
I mean, yeah, you know, there's a bunch. I think I spent a lot of time. I try and focus on units, and there's one unit that we technically shouldn't have been with, and we snuck into to spend a few days with. And they're manning an artillery cruise outside Robotne in 2023. So it was right during the unfortunately failed counteroffensive. So we're sitting there and we're hearing it. We're close enough. This is pre-drones. This is before, you know, the drones can get really, what's the word I'm looking for? The drones were just observation drones at this point, so they were more for queuing in artillery. The FPV was just kind of beginning. It was in its infancy phase. You know, there was those fun occasional videos of the drone dropping, but it wasn't really as much of a problem as it is now. Mm-hmm. And so we decided to sneak into this position with these guys that we knew, and we spent 3 days with them, and the Russians saw us come into position. So we get in, and it is probably the worst trench I've ever stayed in. It's not even a trench. It's like a tunnel, and both sides are open. And there's enough room for me, a guy named Dima, and then in another room was Victor and the commander, and then another journalist was with me. And they were kind of sleeping on the stairs in the open sky. And all of a sudden we just hear, just slamming in to position. Like, it was right above us. They were aiming directly for us. They saw us come in. And I think we spent 3 days total with these guys, just getting the shit bombed out of us. Luckily, no one got hurt, not even the artillery crew. We got great photos. I got to spend all this time with them. And, you know, we kept up with Dima, especially. We kept up with him, and we spent a lot of time talking to him about his wife and his dog and what he's looking forward to. And, you know, one of the quotes that he gave me, I was like, well, what are you going to do after the war ends? And he goes, well, you know, first there's victory. And then after that, there is no plan. Like, that was it. That was the entire thing. He's like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. And unfortunately, poor Dima was killed outside of Divka in February 2024. And so, you know, it's kind of, I can pinpoint my time in Ukraine based around people. You know, I used to have about 3 friends left from 2022, but now I think it's down to 2 people that I know from 2022 that were soldiers that are alive. So it's like you can just kind of choose the time in Ukraine based on people. Right. In my mind, you know, Lysychansk, it's not just Lysychansk, it's Maxim and Churchill and Mazai, and then, you know, Bakhmut, it's Roma and Bakhmut and Tesla and all these guys. And then Avdiivka's the BMP crew. So there's just these kind of people that really define Ukraine for me, is, I hope, a good way to explain it.
No, absolutely. And it's, you know, it's crazy because, you know, I have a passion for World War II history, and it's like, you've heard a lot, especially as the war progressed, of, you know, veteran soldiers not wanting to get too close to the new recruits because they know how quick the turnover was. And if you tend to, you know, get to know somebody, and then they're not there the next day, like, it continues to take a toll on you. So it's almost easier not to know too much about the person, so it, you know, you can almost move past it. So, you know, it's again, it's just another area in which you kind of expose yourself to this side of warfare, where, again, you're meeting these people, you're spending a lot of time with them, you're, you know, speaking with them in downtime about their family and friends and things they like to do, and that, you know, it makes it a lot more difficult, I would assume. You know, if something, or when something does happen to them, you know, you kind of feel a lot more close to them than maybe you would if you had just maybe known their call sign and not maybe much more other than that. So, you know, it's just another aspect of this that, you know, photojournalists like yourself are exposing themselves to, again, for our behalf, to make sure that we get these stories, and, you know, for the soldiers' sake too, you know, because they need that as well.
Yeah, there's, you know, it's kind of crass, but I rank my friends, you know, like, I have top 10 gooby woobies is what we call it, you know, off that really dumb meme that was going around for a bit. And so I started ranking my soldier friends, you know, the people that, the top 10 are the ones that you can be sad of. You know, you can really just, like, let that one suck really bad. Because if you let all of them suck, you're not going to survive. You know, if you let every single person that you made a connection with, every single person that you became a friend with, have an impact, it's not going to end well for you. So you have to kind of rank your friends, and you have to decide, okay, you know, I knew this person a little bit, we talked off and on, but is it really worth having this emotional turmoil? And I think it's going to be something that a lot of soldiers obviously deal with it, where it comes back later in life. And, you know, I think journalists, aid workers, anyone who has any extensive time in a war zone is going to have that, you know, reckoning after the war is over, after you're allowing yourself to start to feel upset by it. I think that there's going to be a big problem in Ukraine with mental health pretty soon. And it's already started. So I think it's going to be something that is going to be very interesting to watch develop over the next 15, 20 years.
No, absolutely. There's definitely a toll and a price to be paid for going through a conflict like this, to be sure. And again, a lot of those problems don't really pop up or right away. You know what I mean? It's not until sometimes down the road that you kind of realize how much you've been affected by this. But I just have to say, Machine Tool, thank you so fucking much. He's not only gifted 100 memberships, but also $500 so far today. So, I mean, I wish there was more words that I could use to express the gratitude and appreciation that I have for your contributions and you know, your passion for, you know, helping people, and not only like independent journalists like myself, or not journalists, but independent creators like myself, and photojournalists like Maddy, but also the people of Ukraine. So thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it from not only me, but from everybody in the chat. It's a huge contribution to the channel. So really,
It's
really
always
appreciate
nice
it.
when someone cares. You know, I think that's people have stopped caring about Ukraine, and it's good to see that people actually pay attention still. You know, there's a big problem in Ukraine where journalists don't feel like it's worth it because who's going to buy the story? Who's going to care? I think it's nice that people actually care still.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And it's like you said, it's very important for us to continue. And I know it's a tough line to walk because of what we're facing domestically right now, in the United States, with ICE, with the National Guard, with gun violence, with our out of control Trump regime. So it's like you really do have to do this fine dance in order to, you know, make sure that we're reminding people, hey, listen, this is a huge conflict still going on. People are dying every single day, night after night after night. Also, we know that, you know, we're dealing with Donald Trump and in an administration here at home that is, you know, hell bent on destroying the Constitution, stripping your rights as much as possible, and accruing as much autocratic, dictatorial power as humanly possible off the backs of anything that they can find politically expedient. And recently, we found, you know, I found it extremely hypocritical of people that have been for years now saying we should stop sending weapons to Ukraine, stop sending aid to Ukraine. You know, they love what Vladimir Putin and Russia are doing. They love their anti-LGBTQI stance that they have over there, and now they're trying to use the brutal death of Irina Zorutska in Charlotte there, as their political pawn, as something to make it seem like they actually care about the plight and the people of Ukraine, and it's not just a video of a black man killing a white woman that they can use to upset their base and again stoke fear against the other side. You know what I mean? But I don't know. Just I was kind of curious on your feelings of the right using that. Again, the same people that were saying, you know, let's not help Ukraine, let's not send weapons, let's not send aid, and now like all of a sudden, hey, supposedly the people that care most about Ukrainian citizens.
And I think it's really interesting, you know, when that first happened, I don't know if you saw Fox News's headline was like white woman slain, and they like
Right.
left it capital W. It's like, oh, okay, so you're saying the quiet part out loud now. I think that, you know, there's the cruel reality of if the conflict in Ukraine were taking place in a non-white country, I don't think they would have cared. If the refugee who was murdered, I can't, Anna's, I cannot remember her name. Pardon me.
I think it's
But if she,
Irina Zarutska. I don't know
Irina
if I'm
Zarutska,
pronouncing that right.
yeah. I cannot, there's so many Ukrainian names that they all blur together for me.
I'm sure
But
you're
you
better
know,
at it than I am. I know that at this point.
you know, you could always say like Sasha, Sergey. There's always like there's 5 names and 6 faces in Ukraine, and you can
So
kind
it's
of just
IRYNAZRUTSKA. So Irina Zarutska, to the
yeah,
best of my knowledge.
yeah. I mean, I think, and let's not forget that ICE is getting ready to deport Ukrainian refugees. There's the fear that Ukrainian refugees are going to be deported. So either you care that this young girl was killed in a senseless crime, or you don't care and you're going to start deporting people. And I'm guessing it's the latter. I think they don't care. I think that they are using this senseless murder as a dog whistle. I think that they're using it to discuss the quiet part out loud, where they want to
Right.
talk about the racial component of it more than anything else. They don't want to consider, you know, social services to help with mental health. The fact that people who commit senseless crimes a lot of the time could be helped, and this could all be prevented by social services. You know, proper rehab, proper healthcare, proper housing, all of this stuff brings crime down, but they don't care about that. They care about the fact that a black man murdered a white girl, and they think that this is the point where they're going to pretend to care about Ukraine. People on the right who do care about Ukraine are going to see this and say, oh, look, this is the party. They're continuing to care about these refugees. And then the people who don't care about Ukraine, but care about, you know, the racial tension in the United States are going to use this as fuel for the fire. I don't think they would have cared if the man who attacked her was white. I don't think they would have cared if she were black. I don't think they would have cared. I think this is nothing more than pretending to give a shit about Ukraine in order to further domestic policy that you want. And, you know, this poor girl fled her home country for safety and had, you know, what happened, and it's completely unacceptable, and it's completely unacceptable that her death is going to be used for something else heinous. And they're going to start supporting Ukrainian refugees. They don't care. They never did.
No, yeah. I completely agree, and I think it's, you know, it's disgusting and egregious the way that her death, her you know, disgusting death is being used as a political weapon, being wielded as a political weapon right now by the other side. You know, I also we should probably get into asking you what I mean, how have you seen things change since Donald Trump has taken over in his second term? Because we've seen the missiles and the drone attacks increase. We've seen his pressure that he's putting on Volodymyr Zelensky and the Ukrainian people be more and above anything that he's putting on Vladimir Putin and the Russian government. So can you speak to, you know, the time that you were obviously have been in Ukraine as to how you've seen things kind of change, and, you know, what changes you've seen over that time, especially since, you know, Donald Trump has taken over in his second term?
I mean, a big one, again, like you mentioned, the increased missile strikes. Me and my roommate, we live on the 14th story of an apartment building, and ever since, and we've actually discussed what happens. Like, we have go bags ready. Like, if it hits stuff that's important, we save from burning. And, you know, we've had to kind of start discussing the fact that not only is Trump trying to push Zelensky to make a deal that is not feasible. Constitutionally, he can't even give up land. He can't. It's in the Constitution that he is not able to give up land. It's not possible. So he's asking for something that's impossible, and then he's giving it on impossible terms. You know, like all of Donetsk, all of Luhansk, all of these regions that, you know, you can't have it all. Your troops are not in all of Donetsk yet. Like, you cannot have it. Right. And I think that a big thing that has changed is now we're saying the words yet. Not your troops aren't in Donetsk. Your troops are losing regions in Donetsk. It's your troops aren't in all of Donetsk yet. Right. On top of the increased missile strikes, Russian attacks and advances along the front line have drastically increased. Ukraine is on its back foot at the moment because there is no support coming in. There is no ability to stop this. And Vladimir Putin knows this and is using this break. Like, even if the US goes back to giving weapons and stuff to Ukraine. I hope that was just a Freudian slip. And they go back to giving weapons to Ukraine, that they're going to stop it, but they see this gap at the moment, and they're pushing as far as they can. And it makes sense logically and tactically, where if your enemy is not getting resupplied, you're going to push as far as you can, as quickly as you can before that resupply gets there. And, you know, in Ukraine, there's also this fear. They joke that he's just going to start giving weapons to Putin. He's just going to be like, all right, fine, here's some weapons, Putin. And I think that there was this expectation that eventually Trump would just out and out start supporting Russia in this conflict. And I think that the people have stopped having faith in the United States. They stopped having faith in Europe. You know, they realize when the incursion in the Poland airspace happened, I talked to people that are like, that's not gonna, nothing's going to matter. It's not going to change anything. Like,
yeah, because I was saying we've already seen in 2022, in November 2022, 2 Polish civilians were killed in an instance where a Russian missile crossed over into Polish airspace, yeah. Polish territory. So again, if that didn't trigger anything, then it's hard to believe that, you know, this, where the missiles were shot down, nobody was killed or anything, that you know, that this would lead to anything. But I mean, to speak to your point, this graphic that we were showing is an illustration of just how much Donald Trump is not in control of Vladimir Putin, that Vladimir Putin is not trying to show the West, is not trying to show the United States that he's, you know, willing to, you know, engage in this as a you know, an actual party that you can trust. Like, I mean, this is a very good illustration of all the missile and drone launches You can see over here on the left-hand side of the screen, these are the incursions into Polish airspace here. I believe there was like 19 or 20 of them in total. But just this graphic is wild to show the amount of launches from these different sites, where they're going, the areas and the routes that they took. I mean, this is a pretty good illustration to show that, Russia is clearly not letting up. They're clearly not saying, okay, Donald Trump, we bow down to you and we listen to you and we're going to obey you. And it's a clear sign that Donald Trump is not in control, I believe. This is a good representation of that.
I think it's very easy, right? Joe Biden, Obama, Bush, they've all said the same things about Putin, that he's a very manipulative, snake oil salesman type of person. And I think Donald Trump fell for it. I think he fell for it long before the presidency. I think that he was dumb enough to get conned. And everyone's like, oh, politician to politician. We have to remember that Vladimir Putin was KGB. This is his entire life. And he wants to restore the glory of the Soviet Union. And part of the glory of the Soviet Union that he wants to restore is not just the land that they lost in 1991 when it fell apart, the dissolution, not just the culture of the Soviet Union, but most importantly, the standing of the Soviet Union in international eyes. It was America and the Soviet Union. And, now it's not just, I think what he would want is China and Russia to be the top dogs.
Right.
And I think that this is Donald Trump's inability to take a stand, to do anything, and Obama's inability to take a stand in 2014 led the door to this. I think, there's a lot to be said about Donald Trump's inability to do anything. I think Joe Biden and the Congress and during his presidency really drug their feet. If they had just given all the weapons to Ukraine all at once, like if they had just taken everything that they've given over the past, oh God, how many years has it been? 4 years? 4 years, and just gave it all up front at the very beginning, it would be over. It would be done. It would be absolutely over, because that's what Russia is good at. The Russian doctrine is send 200,000 soldiers for an enemy with 100,000 bullets. Mm-hmm. They outlast. That is where Russian doctrine is. They're not good tactically, they're not good strategically, but what they do is they outlast, and then the ones who survive are good. The soldiers who survive long enough to be in command positions end up being able to know what they're doing. And I think that's where the U.S. made a huge mistake, and I think that's where Obama made a mistake in 2014 with the annexation of Crimea, was no one put their foot down. No single person, besides obviously Ukrainians who joined the military, put their foot down and said, all right, no, we're not doing this. Because I can guarantee you that if Obama in 2014 had stopped the annexation, stepped up and said, you know what, if we have to, we'll put our troops on the ground, Russia would have been out of there. And again, in 2022, if all the weapons and all of the equipment and all the money had been given at the very beginning, the same amount, nothing more than we've already given, the war would be over.
Well, I feel like the U.S. gets caught in this pattern of trying to, it seems like, maintain as opposed to win. Usually you fight or play a game or you do something to win. Like your objective is victory. Your objective is to, get your goals accomplished and to conquer whatever you're trying to conquer. It is not to just maintain that game for as long as possible while kind of, excusing the worst or, trying to avoid the worst of the worst, but just continuously maintaining and maintaining and maintaining. We saw that in Afghanistan. A lot of, I think, why the people in this country during Vietnam got so disillusioned and so upset is because they just doesn't understand losing 2,000, 2,500 soldiers in a battle, 3 days, taking a hill, only to keep that hill for 24 hours, leave that hill, have the enemy regain and retake that same area, and then we're back in the same, hamster wheel of losing more soldiers to try to regain the territory. So it didn't really make sense, and I think people got disillusioned and frustrated with, us not going for the jugular, not going for the win. And pardon the use of words there. I think that was definitely not on purpose. I promise it was not on purpose on that one. But I think, like you said, Joe Biden not allowing the Ukrainians to have the long range missiles in order to attack the bases deep inside of Russia that were, launching the planes, launching the drones, launching these strikes. So it really put, tied one hand behind the Ukrainians' back, and they were fighting like that for a long, long time. And it's, I feel like there's many instances where we've kind of put a cap or a lid on just how much and how effective the Ukrainian military can be. I mean, we saw during Operation Spiderweb. I mean, just after our trip to Ukraine, we were lucky enough to see the extent of what they were capable of in taking out the Russian aircraft and in attacking the airports so deep inside of Russia. It was all they needed was and they've been saying it. Zelensky didn't need a ride home. He just needs weapons. He just needs bombs. He just needs, give me the ammunition and the ability and the equipment to fight with. And I have the people here ready to fight, determined to save their homeland, save their family, and save their culture that are willing to fight. So we don't want your men and women. We don't want your boots on the ground. We want your, the old weapons that you have sitting in thousands of storage bins all over the country and all over the world. Send that shit that's no longer being used. And if you sent it all at once, like you said, then it would be in a much different situation right now.
And, a lot more people would be alive. I think, were you with us at the drone testing? The big one that they did, the guy, I don't know if you saw, but there was a big emblem on it with a guy on there, Chechen. Have you heard about Chechen?
I'm still deaf. I think I'm still a little deaf because of that. I was the only idiot that said, nah, I don't need air protection. It's a little gun. And then I was like,
Yeah, it was very loud. It was really cool to watch, but there's an emblem on that drone for a guy named Chechen, who a bunch of us met on a previous trip in Chernobyl. Really cool guy, really fun, absolute soldier. This man was ready for everything, and I think if they just gave the initial people who signed up in 2022 the ability to function with the weapons, to have all of this, and not give them rusty AKs. When my partner, he went through basic training, he's Ukrainian. And, I told him, I was like, all right, you have to sign up at this point. Their mobilization has begun. I know you're not a soldier. His father was killed in 2019 during Auto. So he was not super thrilled about joining because the war had been taking stuff in his life for 10 years. And so when he went to basic, they did not have great boots. They did not have great equipment. They did not have great instruction. They did not have great weapons. And it's just all you have to do is give them the material. All you have to do is have, even if you don't want to put NATO boots on the ground, NATO contractor instructors come in, be the instructors, be the one who teach these men how to be soldiers, and then give them the proper weapons. Because a lot of these men aren't given enough training. That's the other thing that I think Ukraine is facing a hard time with, is because the front is bleeding out. Everyone is bleeding out on the front at this point. The Russians are bleeding out too, but they have a lot more blood than Ukraine does. They're bleeding out, so they're trying to just pump these people through to make sure that these positions are filled. And I think if Ukraine took a stance at the very beginning and said, all right, here's how we're going to train. We're going to do it to NATO standards. We're going to have, and NATO contractors will come in, and then here's the weapons. It would be easy. I mean, even the guys in 2022, if you just gave them the weapons, it would have been over. There's so many things that if you just did it ever so slightly differently, would have completely changed everything.
And I think that to go along that point, the ability of the Ukrainian people and of the Ukrainian military to put together such remarkable weapons platforms in the most horrendous of conditions. I mean, the factory that we toured, OSHA would shut down in a fucking heartbeat for any number of violations or reasons or whatever, the health code, safety, whatever the fuck you want to call it, that it would have been shut down. And they are in there busting out the most technologically advanced drone systems to remove people from the battlefield, whether it's a flying drone, whether it be tracked drones, wheeled drones, entire vehicles with jamming. I mean, they were doing things in there that a lot of militaries would be very smart to start getting involved with and start helping and being in cooperation with, because it's going to be the future. And, like you're saying, had we just given them the equipment and the ability, like this is what they were doing earlier on in the war. Like they were taking fucking $100, $200 drones and a $5, $10 grenade, and literally somehow getting good enough with that fucking drone and with that grenade that they had the ability to drop the shit through a fucking sunroof of a Lada. I mean, yeah. I know that may not sound remarkable to a lot of people, but this is a car on the move that's engaged in an attack, trying to flee, and a fucking drone flies over it and just goes boop right in the sunroof, taking them all out. And it just goes to show the ability, some of the incredible defense manufacturers that we had the chance to meet over in Ukraine. Some of them extremely young, but the most brilliant people that have the most brilliant ideas, and all they need is the resources. And when we were over there, they were trying to. Sounded to me, if I can kind of paraphrase correctly from what I heard, their main goal at that time was trying to decouple from any Chinese parts, any foreign parts in these drones, in the systems that they use, and make them in-house, make them in Ukraine so they can be reliable, trusted, save money, that type of stuff. So it's like the things that they're doing with so little over there just is reinforcement of the point that had we given them the weapons platforms, the systems at the beginning of this, that they would have had absolutely no fucking problem implementing those systems and using them to their advantage, because they did so well with babushkas, with fucking Molotov cocktails at the beginning that throw a bunch of United States technologically advanced weaponry in there, and who knows where it would be right now.
And I mean, we could also look at it selfishly, right? Instead of just having us do something good, right? It's not even just like, oh, we're going to donate to this country and have, our feel good about ourselves. This is new warfare. China has already begun its drone testing programs as far above what the U.S. is doing, as far as I know. And of course, the U.S. could be doing secret stuff, but it's not the same that China's doing. FPV teams are being trained everywhere. We should have given them all of these weapons and used it as a testing ground. We could have done this entirely selfishly. This could have been just only to help the U.S. Like, imagine all of what.
To your point, you can keep talking. I'll play this in the background while you chat. Right. But just to your point, this is just an example of a Chinese drone swarm. And again, just think if this was every single one of these had a weapons platforms attached to them, or whatever, fucking rocket, whatever the hell it may be. But I'll turn the volume down. You can continue your point. I just want to make this behind the scenes.
We could just be selfish. We could be selfish and say, you know what, we're doing this only for American weapons development. We're doing this basically as a testing ground. We're going to make this thing. We're going to have you guys test it. You tell us what works and what doesn't, and then we'll improve it. And then our troops will learn off of that. It's insane that what the United States and what NATO is doing is not using this as a learning ground, as a testing ground. Even if you just had a NATO government contractor go and observe more than of course they're there. Everyone knows they're there. It's like the CIA being in a country at war. Of course they're there. But it's not in the same way. It's not ubiquitous the way that we need it to be. We are not preparing ourselves for a war, because that is what it's going to come down to. The world is at the point where we are going to, Charlie Parrish.
Dude, I just have to say, like, I know we've said this on the show before, but the group of people that was put together, and I know there's been many groups put together, and I've only been, fortunate to be involved with the one, but the people on that group were just fucking some of the nicest, most like incredible people from the most different walks of life, though. Like you couldn't pick people from a different fucking different cultures and different areas of the world of me coming from, South Boston and fucking Duke, Charlie, all these fucking fantastic people. So many great military minds, ex-military minds that are, very up to date and astute on what needs to happen and what, is possible, what possibly could happen. So Chuck, I love you, brother. I appreciate you. Please tell Pierre and everybody I said hello. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know Duke and Matt also wanted me to reach out and give you a virtual hug for them. So from the whole team, let me just say they wish you the best. They say hello and they say thank you for everything that you're doing.
I'm so sad I won't be on the next one. It's a little sad, but there's always another one. So
I think a break, and I think some time off is, I mean, because you even went further and deeper into Ukraine than anybody that was involved in my side of it did. I mean, we stopped at Kyiv. You went further on. Where did you actually? Where was your destination just after Kyiv? I believe you were going to the Donbass.
Yeah, I was working with a group with 3rd Storm Brigade outside Borova. So I was following a medevac crew. I can't really get to infantry anymore. That's the other thing. The drones have ruined the war. There's a joke among all the soldiers is the war used to be fun. There's at least, war's never fun, but there was at least some kind of semblance of fun. The infantry positions, you could go outside. You could use the bathroom outside, which is now not a thing. Like, you don't really go outside anymore. The drones have really taken the humanity of war away. I think that the drones have absolutely.
Well, it's like the new Stuka siren, right? Is what I've been heard. Like, I've heard a few people call it like the sound of the drone is like the new. It's like the siren on a Stuka dive bomber. Like, it's there to it's there to create panic. It's there to create fear. And as soon as you hear that, it's like fuck. Because it's because drones, like you said, Evan, and I'm sorry to cut you off. I don't mean to, but you make such a great point. Like, drones have changed war so much, where it's like now getting behind a tree or getting behind a rock or getting under a vehicle or even getting in a bunker, is not going to save you, or it doesn't have the high percentage that it's going to save you as it used to. So it's really a whole different ball game out there. And again, like we've been saying, it'd be very smart and prudent of as many of the allied militaries as possible to study it as much as possible, to develop as much technology as possible to kind of fit into the new realm of what a battlefield looks like.
Yeah, I mean, the drones are objectively probably the most terrified I've ever been is with drones. The closest calls I've had are probably with drones, and because at least with bullets, it's either the guy shooting you is good at shooting and you get hit, or he's not and you don't and you're fine. Or it's with artillery. It hits you or it doesn't. There's this very kind of, it's moving so quickly into the point where, you can run across and move and do stuff and there's some semblance of control, but it's just like, okay, well, oh no. But with drones, you are hunted.
Right.
I've been hunted by them before. They are horrifying. And now with AI targeting systems, with drone jammers don't even work anymore with the fiber optic drones. So the things that were protecting people are no longer protecting them. I almost got schmucked the other day, last time I was out, by an AI drone. So we pulled in and we saw a drone pop above us and we realized that it wasn't, it stopped showing on their little scanner. You can track it. So you can see all right, the drone's going to the hospital in Borova, or the drone is going to this position, or the drone is going to that position, or the drone is going to the stabilization point in Borova, or the drone is going to the cultural house in Borova. And you can kind of tell, because, there's the buildings.
Yeah, some sort of intel that gives you at least some avenues that you can move, right? Now it's
it's going to that big apartment block. And you're all right, we'll just watch. But above us, and then it popped off the screen. We didn't hear it explode. It didn't go anywhere. It's still out there. And what it does is it switches to AI targeting system. So the pilot gets the drone to where it needs to be. And the drone can either be switched. So there's different targeting systems where ones will be for vehicles, right? So they'll look for vehicle-shaped objects and then it'll just automatically target and hit it. Or it'll look for human-shaped objects and automatically target and hit it. And we decided okay, it's not here anymore. Let's just drive out and see what happens. And luckily, the drone was not targeted to vehicles, but what we think they expected was us to pull into this position and then get out and walk to the surrounding positions. So they set the drone to get us walking. Right. And you can't do anything. You can't jam it. I mean, you can try and shoot it down, but that's not that effective or common of a thing to work. There's been multiple. There's one time when I was in the infantry position. It was actually the guy with the little patch that was showing us, the drones were quiet that day, but we were still being targeted by FPV drones. We made the silly decision to leave in the middle of the day and walk to command. Almost got hit by a drone. And then on the way out, an FPV was hunting us. But the car that we were originally supposed to take out at 1 a.m. instead of 1 p.m. got hit by a drone. It's all entirely luck. And the drones, they'll hunt you.
This guy?
Yeah, it was funny. They got in a firefight with Russians. So the Russians are about 100 meters away, and you can see them they just got done shooting at Russians and getting shot at, and he cut his arm on the machine gun with one of the brass, and he just wiped his blood and handed it to me. It was really gross, but really funny.
Now I got to ask, where some of these other pictures are pretty incredible too. Like this is that's a pretty poignant picture. Where was this?
This was outside Bakhmut. So this was during the Battle of Bakhmut. It was in a field outside, and it's a peon. That crew actually got hit by a Lancet drone, but they all survived. The big guy on the right, he was injured enough to where he was able to leave the service, unfortunately. He got a bit of a brain problem. That one with the guys with the cigarette is also, it's in a basement in Bakhmut. His name was Roma. He's from Dnipro. He was actually killed in Avdiivka as well. Yeah, he was a cool guy. He was really nice.
It was crazy while we were over there to hear just how big a problem this whole fiber optic thing is, and hearing that the battlefield now looks like it's been just kind of shot with just a bunch of fishing wire because of how many times the wires have gone over and it just left there and stuff, and it's they've been. Again, all it takes is a government or a military to go in and start working with some of these incredible contractors in Ukraine that are actively looking for solutions and probably have solutions, just don't have the ability to upscale it to the point where it could help the entire military. But all it needs is the funding, or again, the United States or some ally to come in and work side by side with these people and say, listen, this is obviously the future. It's very important for us to know how to combat against fiber optic drones and fiber optic anything. And then the more we work with you guys and work on work on the backs of the work that you guys have already done in this field, then maybe we could make a breakthrough here that will not only save thousands of Ukrainian lives on the front lines now, but who knows, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of soldiers' lives in the future. Not allowing Russia to do this, because they were surprised at. I'm probably going to get this exact information incorrect because obviously it's not my field of expertise, but they were like, basically what's going on, and it went from the Russians using like unsophisticated jamming things and ways to do that, to all of a sudden now it's being broadcast on, like, say if it was like an FM type of radio. Like, it's gotten to the point where they've expanded on that so much, not only with that and the fiber optic, that we're at the point where we need to start making some real revolutionary changes in advancements here in order to combat that type of stuff. Talking about how scary it is, and like it's like a wolf pack, like the submarines, and you can see him on the radar, and then all of a sudden it's gone on the radar, and you're like, okay, well, obviously he's still out there, he didn't just disappear, so where is he? You know what I mean? And now even to the extent that they're putting the jamming systems on the vehicles, and how extensive those have to be now in order to even try to combat them.
It's like 8 or 9 of them, and it doesn't even matter anymore. It doesn't even matter anymore, because if the drone is fiber optic, it's not going to mess with it. If the drone is on an AI targeting system, it's not going to mess with it, because what it does, the jammers prevent the pilot from seeing. So like the drone is still functioning. It doesn't just knock it out of the sky, but it makes it so that way it can't effectively be controlled or moved. So it drops out of the sky, right? But it doesn't just flat. It kind of like, it goes down. But with fiber optic, it doesn't matter. The pilot can still see. And the other thing with fiber optic is it makes it much more accurate, because at some point when you're flying an FPV, I don't know if you got the chance to try FPV, like there's a bunch of training centers, and occasionally they're like, here, do you want to see what it's like? And it's like, sure, yeah, okay. And you can kind of see, like, you're piloting and your targeting system right about here from your target. You start to get fuzzy and lose connection. So you just kind of have to guesstimate the last couple of seconds of flight. But the fiber optics, you don't anymore. It just clear picture into the very end of it detonating.
And I think they were saying like the last mile or something is automated. Like all you have to do is get it within like a mile or 5 miles, something like that. I'm forgetting the exact range, and then it just kind of takes over from there. So it almost eliminates the human error in it, right? I mean, we even got that. Just goes to show how much things progress the battlefield and how rapidly things change and technology is advancing, because, we got that demonstration at the Polygon of the AI use of the drone had the attached weapons platform on it, and they were firing using the AI against the targets there, and it was incredibly accurate. It was able to depict what was a target, what wasn't a target, and it kind of did that whole thing on its own. So it's like, it just goes to show just how much it's advancing, and again, just how much we could be and should be assisting in funding and working with the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian military in order to, again, make sure we're on the right side of these advancements instead of playing defense and catch up. But we're kind of running out of time. I do want to just ask you, I guess the last thing, not pertaining to Ukraine, but it probably could, because we've seen a lot of journalists in the conflicts that are going on right now being taken out. So I was just kind of curious as to your thoughts on the amount of journalists we've seen taken out in Gaza, and the amount of people that have been put in harm's way in Ukraine. Like, is it crazy to you that we've seen more journalists taken out in Gaza than we have in Ukraine, or is that something that kind of makes sense to you? Or
it makes perfect sense. I think the way that the war with Russia is, Russia does, if Russia had the same kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? If the power dynamic were the same between Russia and Ukraine and they weren't necessarily evenly matched, I think it would be the exact same. They'd be taking out journalists left, right, and center. I think Israel is clearly, they use missiles, and Palestine has sometimes automatic weapons, and not, necessarily the best ways. But Israel wants to end coverage of what is happening in Gaza. They want to end coverage of what's going to happen in West Bank. And they are essentially erasing the people who were able to document it properly. And they obviously can't erase everything with the advent of social media and cell phones. It's a lot easier. But I think it is, and with our close allyship with Israel, the US is going to be doing the same thing very soon. And I don't mean taking out journalists in the sense of, bombing them or killing them. But there's a visceral hatred towards journalism in the United States, especially on the right. Like, I was attacked on January 6th by one of the rioters. And the way that journalism is going now, even the news agencies themselves are starting to decline. They're starting to lay people off. They're not paying people properly. Journalism is slowly but surely dying, and it's not just because of the advent of social media. It is a political side of things. I think that we are in a very dangerous period globally when it comes to what is happening. The point to turn this around was 6 weeks ago, was a year ago, 2, 3, 4 years ago. I think we're past the point of being able to stop the bleed. I think that there's going to have to be a direct change in the way that journalists work. I see the same thing with my time in Ukraine. When I first started, everything was not fine and dandy, but I could make a living off of journalism. I could, not just make a living, but I could put stuff into savings. I could have a life. I could go out to a bar and have fun with friends and not be like, okay, is this a thing that I have to worry about? And now so many journalists have completely left the industry because they can't afford it. If they want a family, if they want a house, if they want any sort of stability in their life, even small town coverage to city coverage in the US, it's not possible. I can't even tell you how many journalists I know that are working second and third jobs. It's just not, it's not feasible anymore. And I think that the reality is journalism everywhere across the world is under attack. It's under attack in Gaza, especially in Israel. It's under attack in the United States. There is the concern of what's going to happen in the next 4 years as a journalist here in the United States.
I think there's a lot of so-called journalists doing a lot of harm to actual journalism out there too. Like, there's a lot of so-called media, Fox News presenters on there that consider or call themselves journalists, and people are being disillusioned with them calling themselves journalists and seeing the, you know, the abusive, violent rhetoric that they continue to espouse and the bullshit propaganda that they continue to you know, spew every night. And again, people have trouble, you know, drawing the lines in finding the actual journalists, and not just people that call themselves journalists, and people doing actual journalism, and not taking their anger out on them. And I think a lot of what is going on, like, I don't think Russia needs the United States the way that Israel needs the United States, which means that I don't think Russia needs to control the narrative or the stories coming out of Ukraine or Russia the way that Israel really needs to control the stories and the narrative coming out of Gaza. So I think that's maybe one aspect too, as to, you know, to corroborate what you were saying, as to why we've seen, you know, the egregious amount of journalists being taken out in Gaza. Again, I just don't think Putin and Vladimir, I don't think that Putin and Russia give a shit really what is
Russia
being
doesn't have
shown.
any
I mean,
Russia has no
I mean,
stuff.
we've seen on Telegram, Reddit videos from every single side and aspect of this war since it began, and they rarely do anything they can to try to cover up the atrocities that they commit. So,
and like, and the other is, you know, these cell phone pundits, it's so, they not just mess with real journalists and spread hateful rhetoric, but they spread idiocy. You know, I was earlier, you know, I'm walking around UVU where the shooting was, and a SWAT team walked by, right? And for whatever reason, the SWAT was in full camo. We could talk about the policing procedures in the United States another time, but, you know, SWAT teams are in full camo, dressed like they're going to the front in Ukraine. And I'm like, okay, whatever, SWAT team, go do your own little thing. And a guy comes up to me with a cell phone, and he's like, where did the National Guard go? They didn't deploy the National Guard. He goes, yeah, they just went that way. I was like, I looked, because I was like, wait, did they deploy the National Guard? Did I miss something huge? Like, I'm on the ground. Did I miss the National Guard showing up? There's no way that they deployed the National Guard for an assassination. And, you know, maybe they did. So I look it up and I'm like, no, that's SWAT. My guy, that's SWAT. But by the time I was able to be like, no, not National Guard, SWAT, he was gone. And he was, you know, talking on his cell phone to his YouTube channel or whatever it was.
Right, misinformation already out there. Yeah.
Even with the best intentions, you clearly, like, I didn't go to school for journalism. I don't think people need to go to school for journalism. But I do think that people need to go to school, like, get a history degree, get an English degree, or not even a degree, take classes, learn the process of critical thinking, learn the process of fact checking, and then join the journalism community, because you don't necessarily have to go to school. You know, some of the best journalists I know got their GED, but what they did is they spent years working on fact checking. They figured out how to do it properly. And it is a skill that takes time, and it's not an immediate satisfaction. You don't immediately go, oh, look at that guy in camo, it's National Guard. You have to go through the process to make sure that you are not lying to people. And, you know, and that's the other thing, is journalists do mess up sometimes. You know, there are times where it's like, oh, this happened? Okay, now we have more information and you can change it. And I think that the culture has also, on both the journalism side, the political side, and every aspect, prevented people from being able to say, oh, I was wrong, here's the actual thing that happened. There is no ability for people to not just backtrack, to correct themselves. You know, what I believed when I was 16 was wrong. And I can sit there and I can say what I said when I was 16 was wrong. When I believed in Santa, I was wrong. And I think that there's no ability for people to do that anymore. There's no grace for actual journalists, and then there's 8 miles of grace for cell phone pundits. Yeah, it's the state of journalism is depressing.
Yeah, and look no further than all the Twitter warriors automatically calling the Charlie Kirk shooter, a bleeding-haired, blue-haired, lefty, liberal, trans, fucking Joe Biden, Bernie supporter, and that, you know, civil war needs to be declared again before we know anything. And again, from the pictures that I've seen, at least the latest pictures that have been shown, does not seem like a blue-haired, purple-haired, pink-haired, bleeding heart lib. To me, you know, it's just not what I get from the pictures.
Army veteran named Jacob, right? Like, it could be a dude named Jacob who served 6 years in the Army or 6 years in the Marines. People People are,
or why? I mean, as long as people are pointing fingers and we're not having it without having any information. Like, is it really far fetched to think it could be a Republican or a disillusioned Turning Points member that took
yeah,
out Charlie Kirk because he was supposedly protecting pedophiles and helping Trump cover up his involvement with the Epstein case? I mean, again, I'm not. It would be wrong to go out and put that out as like that's definitely what happened without knowing, of course, which is exactly what the
I
other
mean,
side is doing,
I
pointing
could
out.
also
And
sit
and
there
I
and be
do
like,
think the most. Yeah, go ahead.
I could sit there and be like, where was Boston Brian yesterday at 12:20? Like it's insane. Like where is the line of speculation, right? Like, of course I'm speculating about the things, but I'm not going on my page. I'm not going to an article and saying, oh, I'm like, this is what it could be, because then people start to believe it. If you give people information to back themselves, and that's the other thing that is going on is with Fox News saying it's this, people can immediately pull up their phone and be like, but Fox News said so. So not only is it just self-confirming what they already believe, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And, the second that they find the shooter and it turns out that the shooter voted Democrat one time, it's the Democrats, right? Like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that is just going to turn insane. And, Fox News is not journalism, but people consider them as journalists and they will take whatever they post as gospel. So
Unfortunately,
it's
that is the case. Unfortunately, and again, there's a lot more things that we could dive into, and I appreciate you taking the time out to come here and speak to us. Thank you on behalf of everybody in the chat. Thank you on behalf of everybody from our convoy that wishes you well and sends hugs and best wishes and good vibes to you. So again, thank you so much, Maddy, for coming on the show and chatting with us. Again, we just barely scraped and touched the surface here of some of the things that you've experienced, some of the things that you've covered, your opinions on them. So I appreciate you, and hopefully sometime in the future we'll have you back on and we can get a little bit deeper down into some of these aspects that we started talking about. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun. Would be happy to do it
Appreciate
again.
you very much. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. And again, if you're involved in another convoy, which I hope you are, please stay safe. Take care of yourself out there, and tell everybody I said hello.
I will. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Maddy. Appreciate you. All right, guys. Thank you so much, Maddy. I appreciate her time. It's amazing. I was very surprised, not surprised, but I was impressed to see just how much she's covered and been involved with. And again, she seemingly finds herself in the spot of the news, being in Utah. Again, the same state in which everybody knows the Charlie Kirk shooting took place. So I think, as she said, she was going to head down to Utah Valley and see if she could get any more information about that. So thank you, Maddy, once again for taking the time out. Thank you, Machine Tool, and everybody else that was unbelievably kind and generous. I mean, honestly, there's really no words to put together that I can really say to thank you for the enormous contributions, both in the form of memberships and also dollar donation. So thank you, literally from the bottom of my heart. Anybody that I missed, anybody that sent a Venmo, I promise I will absolutely highlight and give you your appreciation at the end of the show. So thank you. But right now, let's just see. I kind of want to. Yes, this is Maddy's website, the one that I was showing you guys all of the those amazing photos from. So feel free to check that out. She did say that she still has to update that. I mean, I think she said she has some photos and stuff from her time in Sierra Leone that she still has to put on the site. So again, she's been to a lot of places, covered a lot of things, and seen a lot of really a horrendous situation. So I really appreciate her taking the time out to continue to have the passion, in the ability to continue covering these things after I'm sure some of the things that she's seen in her time cannot be easy. So thank you again, once again to Maddy. I appreciate it. All right, let's see. Is there any more? I am going to see if there is anything that we missed. This was one of the updates that I saw this morning. If I can play this one, if anybody has any further updates since I've been on today, if any further information has come out, please let me know. and I'll get this on the screen, but this is just the latest information that I could get in my graphs before I came live today. So please, again, if there's been any further information, further details, further evidence discovered, please let me know in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to relay it to you guys. But this is just the latest that the FBI says it has discovered in this. This is just a quick 2-minute, 33-second clip. And then I believe there is a short CNN clip about it as well. And then we'll see where we lay in this situation, see where we're at. All right. And then we're going to obviously continue to talk about the egregiously dangerous nature in which the right wing is approaching this whole situation, actively trying to stoke a civil war, trying to make this situation even worse of a situation. So, all right, let's just chime into this, see what the new revelations are. And again, if there's any more information, please let me know in the chat. And again, I'll be more than happy to correct the record and update everybody on that information.
Through all that work last night, we were able to make a few breakthroughs. We were able to track the movements of the shooter. Starting at 11:52 a.m., the subject arrived on campus, shortly away from campus. We have tracked his movements onto the campus, through the stairwells, up to the roof, across the roof to a shooting location. After the shooting, we were able to track his movements as he moved to the other side of the building, jumped off of the building, and fled off of the campus and into a neighborhood.
Jumped? Like, I'm confused. He jumped off the building? What do you mean he jumped? What do you mean he jumped off the building? How did he jump off the building and still manage to get away? I mean, this is more and more to me looking like something that was properly planned, properly set up. And I don't mean properly like, done in a good way. I mean, properly like they actually took the time, like this was premeditated. Again, a single shot from a bolt action rifle. I believe it was, what was it? A 30-30. If I'm not mistaken. He might say it in here. I don't want to give any of the wrong information, but it was a bolt action rifle, from, I believe it was something like 530 feet at an elevated platform down into a bowl, 17 mile an hour wind sustained at the time, 30 mile an hour gusts. Right. So it's like, it's becoming a little bit more clear to me, not only with this but with the fact that he was able to get off the campus, get off the roof, get out of the campus into the neighborhood and get away, leads me to believe that this was more premeditated than done by somebody that had more knowledge and professionalism in terms of handling a weapon than just, say a random fucking, again, blue-haired, pink-haired lib that is so disillusioned and mad at Charlie Kirk for his previous speech and rhetoric that they just took it upon themselves to open fire in a crowded area. It's not leading me to this like, spontaneous reaction from some, again, fucking blue-haired, pink-haired, bleeding heart lib that just hates Donald Trump so much. It just doesn't scream that to me. Again, we'll obviously wait till we get further information to confirm anything, but just trying to go off of what we've been told so far. The single shot bolt action rifle, windy conditions, single shot, fucking jumping off the roof, being able to get up on the roof in the first place. Those were the videos that I sent in yesterday of the students that caught this kid, or caught the footage of him on the roof and then him leaving the roof, which, it seems to be like the FBI is confirming that it is the subject or suspect that they're looking for. But let's just see if there's any further information here.
Our investigators have worked through those neighborhoods, contacting anybody they can with doorbell cameras, witnesses, and have thoroughly worked through those communities, trying to identify any leads. We do have good video footage of this individual. We are not going to release that at this time. We are working through some technologies and some ways to identify this individual.
So this must have been the press conference. This must have been before they actually released the still shots. Let's see if this CNN gives us a little bit more information here.
National correspondent Nick Watt. He's joining us right now from Orem in Utah, and CNN senior justice correspondent Evan Perez, who's monitoring this investigation for us. Nick, let me start with you. What's the latest out there in Utah that we have learned about this killing?
Well, Wolf, we have just heard from officials that they had what they describe as breakthroughs during the night. This is coming from the special agent in charge from the FBI Salt Lake field office and from local officials here in Utah. So here is what we know. They are calling the suspect he, him. They're saying that this is a male, college age, who blended in well on campus. They say that they do now have, which they didn't yesterday, they do now have a good image of that suspect. And they are right now using technology to try and identify the person from that or those images. If they fail with that technology, they say they will release these images through the media to the public. The FBI says they've had about 130 tips, Wolf, and they are asking for more. Any eyewitness accounts, any images, still or video, they want them. Now,
and this is, I believe, the image that he's talking about here. FBI releases image of person of interest, announces $100,000 reward amid manhunt for Charlie Kirk's killer. FBI releases photo of interest. This FBI is hoping for the public to help identify a person of interest in the shooting of Charlie Kirk. It does seem like they have tracked at least his arrival and his exit from the 30-06. Doesn't seem like too much more information. Do you guys have anything for me in the chat that I'm missing? Plus, there was a school shooting yesterday about 45 minutes later. Yeah, that was the one in Colorado, Karen, that we've been discussing. I believe that's here. We'll check that out now. Update on the Colorado one, too, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the shooter in that situation has been pronounced dead. Yeah. So this is the, oh, fuck you, New York Times. No, I'm not fucking paying for you. One sec. My apologies. Here we go. Suspect in the, here, let me put this on the screen for you guys. My apologies. Suspect in Evergreen High School shooting, identified sheriff's office. Let's see here. The identified open champion has been identified 16-year-old Desmond Hawley. I believe he has been pronounced deceased. Let me see if this is the latest that we can find here. Let me see. Put this back up so I don't give you. I'm going to be giving you old info. But it says the New York Times is reporting the shooting suspect is dead after attack at Colorado High School. I don't feel it necessary to put the kid's picture on the screen. But I think it says that the 3 teenagers remain in critical condition while the suspect is dead. Or, let's see here. Let's see if this gives us. No, that was 21 hours ago, though. It's not going to give us anything. Yeah, there's one right here. You know, StreamYard, put this on the screen for you guys. Shooter dead, 2 other students hospitalized after shooting at Colorado High School. This is what the sheriff said. The shooter had a self-inflicted gunshot wound, the sheriff's office said. So that is, I believe, the latest update on the Evergreen High School shooting that happened at 12:24 p.m. local time yesterday. The students were taken to the hospital in critical condition following the gunfire, including the suspected shooter was injured with self-inflicted gunshot wound. Suspect died. One of the wounded students with non-life-threatening injuries was released Wednesday night, with the second wounded student remaining in critical condition, hospital officials said on Thursday. A 4th student was also transported to the hospital, but with an unknown injury, authorities said on Wednesday. My heart goes out to all the victims and their families as they grapple with this senseless act of violence, says the Colorado governor. So I'd say guns are a problem, right? What say you? What say you guys? Shooter was 16. Yeah, Deb. I know. Fuck. I was gonna. I don't know. I don't know if I really. I was trying to stay away from that as much as possible. But let me see. Because I know it's going to be just egregiously shitty. Let's see it. 11. See, I'm not going to subject the whole thing. Let's see if there's any clips out there. 1 second. My apologies. Is he sleeping? Is he sleeping? Hold on 1 sec. This is him at the... This is him at the ceremony here, snoozing?
Hilda E. Taylor. Lieutenant Colonel Kip P. Taylor, United States Army.
Fuck is wrong with him? Is his mouth drooping? Is it me or is his mouth drooping? Is that just me? Just look like a sag? Just look like a droop here? Or am I going crazy?
Leonard E. Taylor.
Yeah, he's fucking struggling. He is struggling.
Sandra C. Taylor.
Is it, I mean, he's kind of held it, like, right? Like, he's kind of held it there for too long for it to be just like a random facial expression. Right? Like, if you know, a lot of people just, you kind of make a weird face for a couple seconds and then you kind of go back to normal. It doesn't seem like he did on this one.
Hilda E.
Like, that's
Taylor.
a fucking pretty substantial droop considering the other side of his mouth, right? Look right here.
Lieutenant Colonel Kip P. Taylor, United States Army.
Look at his eyes. Holy fuck.
Leonard E. Taylor.
I mean, and again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to fucking, try to diagnose the man, but isn't it known that it's a side effect of strokes that you get the droopiness, the saggy, that's sometimes a side effect. And again, like I said, I'm not a medical professional. I don't claim to be whatsoever, but I am kind of, just by what I'm looking at, it looks like the right side of his mouth is drooping substantially compared to the other side of his mouth. But again, let's see if there's any other clips out of this horrendous ordeal. Doesn't seem like there was much, huh? Doesn't seem like there was much. Let me see if there's anybody else. Looks like everybody's kind of sharing the same. This is what we played last night. Again, stoking more tensions than quelling any of them. No, I don't see much from his 9/11 shit. Did he speak? Oh, hold on 1 sec. Let me see. Breaking. Charlie Kirk's casket to be flown on Air Force 2 from Utah to Arizona after the fatal shooting as VP Vance and his wife Usha traveled to Salt Lake City to meet with his family. So the taxpayers are funding the transportation of his casket on Air Force 2. And again, that goes along the lines of this, right? Did you guys see this? You guys see this? Yeah, here it is right here. I'll put this back on the screen for you guys. Pete Hegseth leading what looks to be forcing the military into a prayer for Charlie Kirk here.
I'd also be remiss if I did not acknowledge why that flag is at half staff. We lost an incredible American today, a dear friend of mine. If you knew him, you love him. His name is Charlie Kirk. Taken by an assassin's bullet unfathomable. The only assurance you don't do
Play.
for recognition. You do this because you love your countries and your communities.
I'd have to assume that this is somehow, somewhere, some way against the United States Code of Military Justice, right? The uniform code there. I'd have to in some way, can anybody, is anybody from the convoy with military experience that could get through to me on Signal or wherever? Can you let me know if this is in some way against the rules and regulations? Or if this is on the up and up here, or if, the American taxpayer should be funding the bill to transport Charlie Kirk's casket. And again, as egregious and as disgusting as the act was, and as much as we, condemn and don't condone the actions, I'm not going to be fucking telling anybody to be going outside and fucking lowering their American flag to half staff for fucking Charlie Kirk. Okay. I don't think the American people should be footing the fucking bill as taxpayers to transport Charlie Kirk's casket around. I think he made more than enough money throughout his time. I think his family, right? I think his friends have more than enough money where it shouldn't be the burden of the United States taxpayer to, again, ship his casket around. And I think we can hold both of these opinions at the same time, right? I don't expect you to shed a tear. I don't expect you to lose any sleep. I expect you to act like a human. I expect you to act like you have some sort of compassion and sympathy or empathy, and not celebrate or condone this, but rather stay silent if you so choose, which is your prerogative as an American. I will tell nobody to lose sleep. I will tell nobody to shed a tear. I will tell nobody to lower your fucking American flag. But I can also call this egregious act out for the horrendous nature that it was, right? I think we can espouse both of these policies, espouse both of these beliefs, and also at the same time point out, the fact that Charlie Kirk himself was once somebody that advocated for public executions, that children as young as 13 years old should be forced to watch, or advocating against gun regulation. Or saying that, I don't know, the loss of kids in schools is just the price you pay for freedom. Like, I don't think it's wrong or egregious or not above board to point out the irony, to point out the rhetoric that could have possibly led us to this position in the first place. Right? I don't think either of those things are too out of the norm or out of the realm of possibilities and what's right to espouse. But I have a big fucking problem with our United States military somehow honoring a man who, again, as egregious and as brutal as his murder was, and as much as I hope whoever perpetrated this act is found and brought to fucking justice and held to the fullest extent of the law. Again, shouldn't be that hard for us to fucking say as lefties. I don't believe that the fucking military, the United States military, should in any way be burdened with the responsibility or the mental anguish for somebody they possibly didn't give a shit about, for somebody they possibly, espoused the complete opposite political view. So again, I know it's a fine line that we're walking here because, for a political commentator myself that, has no fucking problem sharing his opinions and telling you guys exactly how I feel and exactly what I think, it obviously gives me a fucking, gives me cause for a double take when shit like this happens. But again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's something that the United States military should be praying over, or something that Americans should be forced to fucking lower their American flag for. Did the military pray for the kids at Sandy Hook Did the military pray for the kids at Columbine or any of the school shootings or mass shootings in hospitals, malls, grocery stores since? Or in between those times? If the answer is no, it sure as fuck shouldn't start now. And again, it doesn't take long scrolling Twitter to find the people out there calling for civil war, right? Let's see here. Oh, I spelled it wrong like an idiot. Libs of TikTok. These are some of the ones that we went over on the last show. Libs of TikTok. This is war. Some of the things that Jesse Waters, bots on here now calling for civil war. It's crazy. Yeah, this is Jesse Waters talking about it. I mean, again, this is Fox News, the most watched fucking television, the most watched news network on the fucking face of the planet, or at least in the United States. I don't want to give him fucking too much credit. And this is, one of their, if not the main commentator on their channel. And this is what he's fucking out there espousing. Again, before we know anything definitive about what happened or why it happened or what the motive was.
This hits differently because Charlie was one of us. And Trump gets hit in the ear. Charlie gets shot dead. They came after Kavanaugh with a rifle.
And I said this on Blue Sky, and I fucking fully mean it. The most dangerous word that Republicans right now are espousing and saying is not war. It's not civil war. The most dangerous word that they're saying right now is they. Because who the fuck is they? I can tell you right off the fucking jump, whoever this fucking prick was that took this shot doesn't fucking represent me. Doesn't represent my beliefs. Doesn't represent my policies or my side of the political aisle. He doesn't get to fucking speak for me. Fuck that. You don't get to take my ability to speak for myself and tell you what I believe away from me and pass it on to this fucking cocksucker. No. That's not how it works. That's not how it fucking works. Nor do you, as a so-called journalist or a fucking reporter or whatever you want to fucking call yourself, get to come out here and say they and put this on an entire political side and everybody in that political system for the egregious acts of one clearly unstable human being that had access to a fucking weapon. So fuck you, Jesse, and the fucking rhetoric and the fucking shit that you're espousing right now, and the dangerous nature in which you come on to Fox, you and Greg Gutfeld, and talk about they, the left, and war, and try to continue stoking this fucking shit. And you wonder why we continue to see this shit happen. Because of fucking morons and degenerates and pieces of shit like Jesse fucking Waters coming on here, pointing the finger at an entire political party, an entire fucking half of the country as the warring fucking faction, as the enemy. Especially at a time where on Twitter right now, you can't go two sections without finding a Republican actively calling for civil war and violence against Democrats. For, again, something they have absolutely no fucking information on whatsoever yet.
Neighborhood. They went after Musk's cars. They just shot 2 Jews outside the embassy. Think about it. Scalise got shot, barely survived.
Sorry, I wasn't even playing it. My apologies. I'm so fucking flustered at these pricks.
Embassy neighborhood. Shot.
Ready? Listen to his use of the word they, people. Listen to the use of the word, and it doesn't matter what situation he's describing or how different they are or how fucking far apart they are in timeline. They means the same person. They means the same thing to all of them. And he knows exactly what he's doing when he's using the word fucking they.
They came after Kavanaugh with a
They came after Kavanaugh.
rifle to his neighborhood. They went after Musk's car.
They went after Musk's cars.
They just shot 2 Jews outside
They just shot 2 Jews.
the embassy. Think about
Who the fuck's they? I didn't shoot 2 Jews. I didn't burn any fucking Elon Musk vehicles. I've flipped a fucking number of them off, I can tell you that much. But I'm not in the business of causing fucking, egregious physical harm to somebody because of the vehicle that they drive. You know? I'm not in the fucking business of lighting fires that could potentially take down an entire fucking city block because of the fucking vehicle you drove. I'll give you my peace of fucking mind. I'll show you with fucking hand gestures and shit coming out of my mouth exactly how I feel about the fucking vehicle you're driving. But I sure as fuck ain't gonna blow you out of the water. I sure as fuck ain't gonna fucking harm you or anybody else on the road because of the fucking car that you're driving. So don't fucking anybody.
Scalise got shot, barely survived. It's happening. You got trans shooters. You got riots in LA.
Do we have trans shooters? Because if that's the way that we're approaching the situation, then we have a far bigger problem, and we've had a far bigger problem that we've known about for some time, considering the vast majority of, say, I don't know, mass shooters, school shooters have been probably white male conservatives. So if we're going to talk about the big picture and the numbers in totality on the whole, why don't we do that? And then why don't we look at why we've seen maybe an uptick in people that are so egregiously fucking marginalized and shunned from our society that we've now seen them start to fucking fight back and push back. Right? And we've now seen fucking a mental health crisis take over in the communities that are being oppressed, that are leading to more egregious and violent actions. How about we have a real human conversation, adult conversation on how to change and fix this shit, as opposed to coming on here and stoking more fucking violence, more hatred towards the other side, which is, again, the same fucking thing that led us here in the first place.
They are at war with us. Whether we want to.
They are at war with us, he says.
Got shot, barely survived. It's happening. You got trans shooters. You got riots in LA. They are at war with us. Whether we want to accept it or not, they are at war with us. And what are we going to do about it? How much political violence are we going to tolerate? And that's the question we're just going to have to ask ourselves. Now, Charlie.
Now, again, this is the foremost commentator on the foremost news network, actively trying to draw what he is doing, a line in the sand that he says has been crossed by a particular set of people, and that his people should be ready, willing, and able to fight back, is exactly what the fuck he's talking about.
Would want us to put as much pressure on these people as possible. Dana nailed it. This is unacceptable and has to stop. And it has to stop now. And everybody's account.
Okay, so did you call it unacceptable when, again, the gentleman or the asshole broke in and started beating Nancy Pelosi's husband over the head with a hammer? Was that unacceptable? Was the assassinations of the 2 Democratic representatives, did you call that out in the same form and fashion that you are now calling this out? Because it seems like we have a fucking double standard on our hands where I'm willing to call it out regardless of who does it, but you're only willing to fucking use it in your political expedience when it's advantageous or done to your side. And you wonder why we say that you're not principled, you're not fucking beliefs, you don't actually have true and principled beliefs, you don't care about the shit you espouse. Only when you can use it to your fucking benefit, or only when you feel like you yourself are being attacked specifically, do you have the fucking balls to speak up when you're surrounded by so many on your side saying the same fucking egregious bullshit.
And we're watching what they're saying on television. And who's saying what? The politicians, the media, and all of these rats out there.
And that is, again, another open threat and another thing that's going on and taking place on social media right now. Large right-wing accounts are actively searching out anybody that they can find, openly celebrating, tweeting about, reveling in the fact that Charlie Kirk was murdered, and they're outing these people, and they're blasting them all over social media. They're doxing these people. They're sending their sycophants after these people, which is, again, going to lead to more violence, more hatred, more death. So I advise all of you, be fucking careful. Be very fucking careful, right? Because, you know, the shit that you may say behind closed doors and to your family, the second that you cross the line and post that to a public forum, you know, you put yourself in the crosshairs. And it's not just because it's, ridiculous and inhumane to do so, but because these right-wingers are actively searching social media right now to find people just like you so that they can expose them to their millions of fucking followers and have every single one of their followers come after you with the fucking hateful vengeance of the original account. So be very fucking careful. Again, I'm not forcing you or asking you to think anything. I'm not saying that you should have to feel a certain way. But just be very careful before you make that fucking active decision to post on social media or in any public space, gleefully gloating and celebrating, this act of violence. See if there's anything else here.
This can never happen again. It ends.
And you don't have to look too far either, because there was also, let me see if I can. I think there was a Steve Bannon clip as well. Let's see if I can find it. The West became like Christian. There you go. I'm trying to find the right clip. Let's see. What's this one?
And that they have not found him. So this is someone who had thought through.
My apologies. I'm trying to find. I just don't want to show you guys the wrong one.
Ability to network, that kind of energy that draws people in. You can build teams on, which is so important out there.
Was a warrior. Charlie Kirk wasn't going to back down after the Butler assassination attempt last summer.
Yeah, I don't think it's hugely important. Like I said, it's pretty much a through line on the conservative side, on the Republican side here. Again, actively calling for more violence, actively calling for open season. Here's a good one from, I think this is I think Blue Georgia actually has a couple compilation out there that might be. Oh, hey. Here's Aaron Rupa saying the same thing that my apologies, saying the same thing that I pointed out. The right side of Trump's face getting droopy here. All right. So, all right. I feel better now that we weren't the only ones to call that out. Let's see here. I think they had a compilation. It might not be Blue Georgia. It might be one of these other accounts, but I thought they had like a compilation put together of people calling for. Let's see what this one says.
A bullseye on Trump, a bullseye on his supporters. We're in a war. The left has been saying put a bullseye on Trump, a bullseye on his supporters.
Charlie Kirk's a casualty of war. We're in this country. We are.
They are at war with us. Whether we want to accept it or not, they are at war with us. And what are we going to do about it?
And this is the one we were showing yesterday on the show. Again, well before and still to this moment, before we know any of the fucking information from this, again, motive or anything like that, of just several. I'm sure this isn't even scratching the surface of the amount of accounts that are actively calling for war against the Democratic Party, actively calling for war against, trans people. It goes on and on.
We're in a war.
And it continuously gets more dangerous. We also played this. I'm not going to play that again. But yeah, let me see. Let me check in again. just to make sure we're not missing any information. And if not, I will make sure to start thanking you guys, and I will get you guys out of here so you can enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of the commentators and creators that you love to listen to and enjoy. Nope. So basically, the latest that I can see is just the manhunt is still underway. Those photos that they've released seem like they continue to be the photos that are up to date, because if I'm not mistaken, this is like the third or fourth suspect at this time. I know we saw, I think it was two elderly gentlemen arrested at the scene or taken into custody at the scene. They ended up being released. Kash Patel said that somebody was in custody. That person ended up being released. So I do not see any, substantial updates in the case up until this point. So I think we're pretty much up to speed. Again, they found the weapon. They have, photo of the guy, and, they have tracked his whereabouts throughout the campus of the day. But to the best of their knowledge, he jumped off the roof, escaped through a neighborhood, and the manhunt continues. Again, I find it particularly egregious that the United States military somehow is being roped up and involved, in taxpayers. Oh, here's another one. I wanted to see if I could find this one as well. Here's Greg Gutfeld.
Jesse's right. If they could do this, they are capable of anything. I think that was.
What do you notice? What do you notice right off the bat from that clip? Come on, I know you guys. You let me see if anybody's catching on and learning. If I'm actually making a dent. What do you guys notice from that clip? Just from the few words that he just said there. What do you notice? There you go, Karen. I knew I'm making a dent in somebody. I knew I'm making a dent. Yep. Vicky got it. Buttercup. Yep. Thank you, Moon Girl. Yep. All right. So I appreciate it. You guys actually do listen and pay attention. I am very happy to hear that. Yes, if they can do this, if they can do that, they are doing this and they perpetrated. Who the fuck is they, Greg? You don't know who the fuck the shooter is. You don't know his political affiliations. You don't know his beliefs. You don't know his mental health situation. You don't know shit about shit at this point. So continuously point a finger at anybody is incredibly dangerous and egregious here. Listen.
Jesse's right. If they could do this, they are capable of anything. I think that was the message. I believe that was the message. It's really hard to radicalize Republicans.
Yeah.
What? Literally the biggest threat to our country is the radicalized national white supremacists in our country, per the FBI and the CIA. Like, quite literally, the biggest threat that we face inside of our fucking own country are literally white supremacists that espouse and subscribe to the conservative Republican point of view and position in this country. So don't give me this bullshit that the fucking Republicans can't be radicalized. Have you seen Twitter, Greg? Hop on fucking Twitter for a couple seconds. You'll see some fucking radicalization.
It's like, we're not the radical type. Jesse's right. If they.
Unreal. I mean, just the complete lack of self-awareness of these people is really fucking something. It is. All right. So let me get into, hold on. One more thing. Mel sent this to me. Let me see if it's in the email. Let me see. So Mel sent this and said this was yesterday. This is from Cynthia Hope Laub on Blue Sky, and it says, quote, chaos erupted in the U.S. House of Representatives when Rep. Lauren Boebert wasn't satisfied with Speaker Mike Johnson's silent prayer for Charlie Kirk and demanded a publicly spoken prayer. Democrats objected that other shooting victims, including the student shot in Colorado today, did not get similar treatment. Let me see if I can. I'm just going to send this to myself real quick and see if I can show this before we get out of here. Bear with me just a second. All right. Let's see if that pops up. There we go. Show you this one. Share this tab instead. Put this on here. Make this bigger. Shh.
The chair would ask that all members present in the chamber and those in the gallery please rise for a moment of prayer for Charlie Kirk and his family. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Colorado rise?
Shh.
Let's wait a minute. The House will be in order. The House will be in order.
I mean, it's only, I don't think it's fucking, I don't think it's too, you know, aggressively egregious to point out that, how about the students that were shot, not yesterday, the day before that, the day before that, where's their prayers? Where's their, you know, fucking moment of silence, right? And again, this is something being used again by the right to suggest that Democrats are being insensitive or somehow don't care or whatever the fuck, similar to the way that they're using they and similar to the way that they're using in pointing fingers to the left when they know absolutely nothing about the fucking situation or the motive behind it yet. Let me see. Let me make sure there wasn't anybody on Venmo that I missed. And then I will make sure to get you guys, I'll make sure to get you guys out of here. I appreciate you. Oh my goodness, Barbara. Holy crap. You guys are been incredible today. Oh my God. Barbara, Nancy, Jennifer, Thomas, Laurie, Damon, Nancy, Allison, JD, Chuck, Teague, Linda, Michael, you guys are like saints beyond saints. Thank you so much for everything that you do in helping these smaller, truly independent media stations in channels. You know, your financial support. Just it's almost impossible to express just how much it means and helps to channels like this. So thank you so fucking much to everybody again who reached out via Venmo. You know, sent in, you know, a PayPal, whatever it is. You guys are amazing. Everybody that I just listed there. Barbara, thank you so much for your incredibly generous contribution, along with everybody else. Nancy, Jennifer, Thomas, Laurie, Damon, Nancy, all you guys, Allison, JD, Chuck, Teague, Linda, Michael. Again, I can't thank you guys enough. It's impressive, the support that you guys continue to show to this channel. And I know we got a few people to thank here on the YouTube side of things as well. First and foremost, Machine Tool, man. I can't thank you enough. I really can't. Thank you for not only the twice 50 gifted memberships, which is just outrageous to think about in and of itself by itself, but also your like above and beyond board, like incredibly ridiculously I don't even know, whatever words that we can come up with again in the English language, above board, overly generous and kind contributions to this channel. Thank you. It is incredibly huge when something like this happens to a channel like mine. It goes so far in helping, and it goes so far in you know, showing other people that there are others out there that truly care about these subjects and truly care about supporting independent media. So thank you, Machine Tool. Again, like I said, the 250 gift, I can't even thank, and another being here for 3 months and another 10 gifted. Like, holy shit. Like, I'm going to have to find something to send you, or some way to thank you, or some way to show my gratitude for your incredible contributions today. thank you so much for not only the contributions, but also taking the burden off of everybody else that I know has been under incredible stress lately, with this show and trying to expand while also trying to contribute as much as you can. I see it, I know it, and I understand that you guys have gone above and beyond. So thank you, Machine Tool, for a multitude of reasons, really and truly. Thank you so much. And thank you, Simon, for being here for 1 month. Peace, love, and happiness to you, my friend. Thank you so much for being here and your kind contributions. WW, from one war zone to the next, it takes money. Thank you, WW, absolutely, for not only your kind contributions, but your poignant statement there. Thank you. I appreciate you. Rachel, thank you for your $2. I really appreciate how terrified must Fuentes be if a Groyper did it. Well, that's what, again, just think of how much the situation could change and how much the rhetoric and how much what people are saying about this situation could change in the instant that we find out all of the information that Fox and all these other assholes are pushing out is completely false, or whatever was written or allegedly written on the shell casings is found out to have only been put there to, again, throw off the trail, to obfuscate, to make people talk about and say exactly what they're saying now. As soon as they hear the word trans, as soon as they hear the word anti-fascist, right? So this could change in a fucking heartbeat when we could possibly find out that, yes, this is a disillusioned Republican that is incredibly upset at the way the Epstein files have been handled, at the way that Charlie Kirk maybe was handling the Epstein coverage, and maybe because pedophiles, high-profile pedophiles all over this world are being covered up for and protected. We don't know, but that would surely change the fucking narrative behind this shit a whole hell of a lot, wouldn't it? So that's just, again, I put that out there as an example of how just people are pulling shit out of their ass when it's probably indefinitely better suited for everybody to just wait until we hear and wait until we find out the actual facts of the case, and then we dive into it from there, right? So thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Rachel, again. I appreciate you. Why can't we follow Australia's gun model? There are so many gun models that I wish we could follow. And that's not to say that there aren't states in the United States that have great gun legislation and great gun models. But again, it only goes as far as the surrounding states, right? You could have the best gun legislation on the planet, but if all the states that border your state have lackadaisical gun laws and they're being able to be transported across state lines, and it doesn't really do a whole hell of a lot, right? So we need comprehensive gun laws, countrywide gun laws that all the states can agree to, enforce. That's where the substantial change will come in, I believe. And thank you, Rachel, again, 3 in a row, hat trick for Rachel. He deserved to live long enough for his kids to grow up and choose to disown him from their lives for being such a prick. He should be alive and lonely. Again, I'm not telling you guys what to feel. I'm not telling you guys how to feel. It's, you're adults, you're Americans. I have a problem with anybody celebrating and condoning these actions. I find that to be incredibly egregious. And again, I would rather defeat Charlie Kirk in the public arena. As far as debate, I would rather defeat his ideas or lack thereof in the public arena. That would give me much more satisfaction as a political commentator, as a leftist, than anything stemming from this could even it's not even on the scale. It doesn't even register, right? I mean, I would much rather be face to face with Charlie Kirk, beating him down in the marketplace of ideas, rather than, again, somebody try to take his freedom in their hands, which I, again, am never in favor in, regardless of who it's happening to. So who's next? Thank you again, Jackie. Thank you again, Rachel, for your kind contributions there all in a row. Thank you so much, Jackie, for being here for 3 months. I really do appreciate that. Much love to you, and thank you so much for being here. JD, thank you for the profanity bonus. Always going above and beyond. I appreciate you, buddy. And then to round it out, Michael Irish being here for 10 months. Let's fucking go. I emailed you. I know you're busy as I am broke. Sorry. I'll definitely check it out. I have a ton of emails to get to. It's been crazy. I haven't checked them in a few days. because of, again, everything that's been going on, obviously, and stuff behind the scenes as well. So I apologize to anybody that's reached out that I haven't gotten back to. And thank you guys for your incredible generosity, your support for this channel, your understanding of my positions on these matters. And thank you for being respectful and carrying on this conversation in a kind and respectful way, as much as possible, as much as humanly possible, at least. So I'll let you guys go with the rest of your day. I really do appreciate you. Let's go and let's not forget this is also, in the anniversary of 9/11. So let's make sure we pay our respects to the people that lost their lives and the people that were affected in that, tragedy, obviously in 2001, and let's not forget let's not forget the broader conversation that we need to have, regardless of what we find out going from here on, that we need to have about guns, gun legislation, gun violence. Let's make sure we have that conversation in again, a respectful and adult way. Thank you guys for everything that you continuously do. Machine Tool, again, I can't thank you enough. To the 17 trillion people that got free memberships for Machine Tool today, please make sure you reach out and thank him for his unbelievably kind and generous contributions to the channel, because I can't tell you how much that means and how long that goes. What was I doing during 9/11? Good question. I was in a CAD class. I was in my computer aided design class at my high school, which looked directly at the city of Boston. And we had our eyes glued on the city of Boston, just waiting for that plane to come, waiting for that strike to come that we were rather sure was going to come, especially after hearing about the Pentagon, the other plane that was hijacked, and obviously the two planes that crashed into the towers. To be sitting there looking out of my high school window at the entirety of the city of Boston was it was pretty surreal. Not only knowing that that's where the planes took off from, but knowing that could have been an area of attack as well. We stayed in that class and watched the news for the entirety of the day. I think I went home early. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember specifically anymore what happened, but yeah, I was in computer aided design class, watching it with the rest of you guys, and just happened to have one eye on the entire city of Boston, just waiting. So, but yeah, I appreciate you asking that question, Gamer. All right, I'm going to let you go. I know I'm probably stepping on somebody's toes here, so I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Don't forget, obviously, 9/11, and don't forget to make sure we have these conversations, these difficult conversations, in the most respectful and humane way possible, please. Let's not turn into the other side. Let's not let the other side turn us into the other side. But it's still as important, if not more now than ever, to get out of your seats, get into the streets, find your nearest rally, find your nearest protest. But this is probably more important now than ever. Make sure you have your fucking head on a swivel. Okay. Be very, very, very overly cautious depending on where you are. I don't want to scare anybody. But again, with the rhetoric that's flying around right now, it is very, very smart of you to be better safe than sorry, and maybe stay away from large crowds, if it pertains to politics, or if it has a divisive, has some divisive topic involved. I would maybe give it a few before you start attending things like that again. Just be careful out there. I appreciate you. I don't want to see any of you guys get hurt. Again, we don't want anybody being hurt. So thank you guys. I'll let you go. Thank you to the mods very much. Thank you. And I appreciate you guys more than ever, especially over the last couple days. You guys have been, fighting your asses off in there, in the chats. Mel, thank you so much as well for everything that you've done and all the shit that you've had to put up with. Again, all the mods, I'm not singling anybody out. All you guys have done fantastic jobs, both inside of my chat and in other chats, at making sure you swipe the ridiculously violent and egregious comments out of there so that we can continue to have this conversation. So literally from the bottom of my heart, thank you, mods. I appreciate you, and you are a huge reason why this channel continues to be here. So thank you. And to everybody else, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. All right. I'll see you guys. What's today? Thursday. I'll see you Sunday. All right. I appreciate it. Hit that notification bell. Again, share the stream on the way out. Please hit that like button, subscribe if you're not subscribed. We have finally passed 13,000 subscribers. So, upwards and onwards there. Thank you very much again, Machine Tool, and everybody else that contributed so kindly today. I'll let you go. I appreciate you. I'll see you Sunday. Hit the notification bell. That way you don't have to remember all of my ridiculous times and all of my shows. All right. I appreciate you. I'm Boston Brian. This has been Blunt Politics. Keep kicking ass, and we'll see you later, buddy. Oh, and just before I lose too many of you guys, don't forget, if you're signed up at patreon.com/BostonBrian, get you into our monthly Zoom that we're having tonight. Again, I thought it'd be, obviously before we heard and knew the news of the week, that it would be, very special and poignant for us to have it tonight so we could, talk about it. But I just want to make sure that I remind everybody tonight is going to be the Zoom. So anybody that signed up before tonight at patreon.com/BostonBrian, get you involved in those. So I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't the burden on the mods to remind everybody. Thank you guys, and I'll see you later.
When you ran out the healthy arms, you ran out of really healthy, they had great arms, but wrong.
It feels so lovely to be here tonight. What a beautiful life. Give yourselves a round of applause. You're so lovely. Everyone's so lovely.
Fucking Nazis.
Yesterday's a hard word for me.
Call them dumps, big massive dumps.
Obama.
There's no way we are going to allow a con artist to take over the conservative movement, and Donald Trump is a con artist. I can just tell you that a con artist is about to take over the Republican Party and the conservative movement, and we have to put a stop to it.
Always calling me Little Marco. And I'll admit, the guy, he's taller than me, he's like 6'2", which is why I don't understand why his hands are the size of someone who's 5'2".
Oh, if you do one thing right, you can't do it all right, And I can't even fake a reason that I meant to come back this time. All right, try it.
We're a nation that just recently heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat.
I saw that, VD. I saw those videos. Definitely, definitely a little fishy, to say the least.
The big, fat, sloppy United States.